Padah בשלום ונפשי מקרבת כי ברבם היו עמדי. The Pashas Advarim, David HaMelech is thanking the Eibusher, the Milchama between David HaMelech and Avshalom, and the Eibusher redeemed him from this Milchama. So David HaMelech sagt Shvach v'Yidot to the Eibusher, the Padah b'Shalom Nafshi, the Eibusher redeemed his nefesh b'Shalom from the battle that he had, Mikravli, Farvos ki berabim hayu yomadi. Now we'll see the Prat. Case with Rabbeinu Azaken Bala Gula Basim, but the Rebbe writes, the Bala Gula Vitas Christa, the Rebbe writes it to the Barditchever, the Rebbe wrote also the same Teichen to the Baruch Mezhibuzher. So the Rebbe knows that the way the Rebbe writes in the letter is, Shekarisi B'Sefer Tilim, B'Posek Hodah B'Shal Nafshi. The Fidik Rebbe says that the Tilim, the way it's Nech like Lemei HaChedesh, every day of the month, to say a certain chelik of Tilim to finish it within the month. So that Rebbe, even from the Baal Shem Tov, when Alma Gezak to share Tilim, the way it's Nech like Lemei HaChedesh. Fidik Rebbe was a farsim that everybody should say the capital Tilim. But Be'esh Tzara, the Rabbeim always said it, but Be'esh Tzara, or special times, so the Alter Rebbe, the Rabbeim were meisif to say also the shir Tilim, the way it's Nech like Lemei HaShavua. So then the Gula was Tuesday, so the Alter Rebbe was saying the shir Tilim of Yom HaShlishi, and there's the pasuk of Padah b'Shalom Nafshi. So the Alter Rebbe says the B'Shas, there's also the capital Nehei. So Alter Rebbe says B'Shas, he was saying this pasuk, Shekarisi b'Shir Tilim pasuk Padah b'Shalom Nafshi, Kedim she'izchati pasuk shel Acharav, Yitzasi b'Shalim Hashem Shalom. So that's a clear that Alter Rebbe clearly connects the fact that he left the Geula Vitas Kislev to this pasuk until to the pasuk Padah b'Shalom Nafshi is madgish that B'Shas was saying this pasuk before he started the next pasuk, Yitzasi b'Shalim Hashem Shalom. Umov mizeh she'teichen hakazav shayach l'Geula Rabbeinu Azaken. We'll see later the Hadgosh over here. Das versteht jeder einer, even in Pashtus, that the Alter Rebbe is saying Yitzasi b'Shalim Hashem Shalom. The Alter Rebbe left the Meister of the Geula wasn't in a way of Muhammad. It's not the pshat that there was a Muhammad zwischen the Chassidim over there with the government, and they overpowered the government, Mizgaber, and they fought over them. That's the way the Alter Rebbe was freed. The Alter Rebbe was freed in a way of Shalom. They came to after the whole Drisha, they came to the Maskana that the Alter Rebbe is Zakai. That the Alter Rebbe is Vizak. The Alter Rebbe is so the Alter Rebbe is saying there's a dimin in the pasuk. Punkt. The pasuk says is a Padah b'Shalom. So the Alter Rebbe says it's Tzatzi b'Shalom Hashem Shalom. But the fact Alter Rebbe says that he was saying this pasuk before he started pasuk shel Acharav. So he got his goal. That means that the Teichen HaKosav is shaykh to this kislev. Means Azeva hat mir gesagt, you have a pasuk Padah b'Shalom Nafshi. So what's the dimin that they're both here happen Shalom and there happen Shalom? But let's say there's drashas Chazal in the pasuk of Padah b'Shalom Nafshi. That's also connected to the goal of the Alter Rebbe. This pasuk, or only this aspect, without what Alter Rebbe is madgish in the letter. The Alter Rebbe is madgish in the letter that Padah b'Shalom Yitzasi b'Shalom Hashem Shalom. That means that the pasuk Kameish who is shaykh to the goal of the Alter Rebbe. And saying Stamazim b'Shitchis Alter Rebbe gesagt that there's a remnants, there's a dimyan. Here the goal was b'Shalom and the pasuk is b'Shalom. But the Rebbe is saying more than that. This pasuk is connected to the goal of the Alter Rebbe, and therefore even the drashas Chazal in the pasuk, which have nothing to do with that gush of Shalom, let's say, of freedom and Shalom. The Gemara in Brachis, Kol Ha'esef V'Tzibur, Kol Ha'Masalam V'Tzibur. The pasuk, this pasuk is connected to the goal of the Alter Rebbe, because the Alter Rebbe connects the goal to this pasuk. The Meile, all the drashas Chazal on the pasuk is also connected to the goal of the Alter Rebbe. That's the Rebbe's message for Muhim is Sheteichen HaKosav Shayach l'Geula Rabbeinu Azaken. The entire pasuk. Yeah. Ister, was is the goal of the Alter Rebbe? Hine Geula Rabbeinu Azaken Unin Afatzim Hamayonish Teres Achsidus Chutzah. The Rebbe explains what's the pshat. I mean, that's versteht jeder in Repashtus even before they suffer. But I mean, the Alter Rebbe's Indian, you have the Alter Rebbe's in Meiser as a Grace Zach. You have a Nasi B'Yisrael in Tfisa. But the Alter Rebbe represents the shlichus in the world in Meifis Chassidus. So the Alter Rebbe in Tfisa means that the Indian of Afatz Chassidus is in Tfisa, and the Alter Rebbe being freed from prison is not just a regular yid that he has his mitzvahs and then he has things that he does. The Alter Rebbe's whole most was the fact that he was the Meifis Chassidus, Mafarsam Chassidus. So the Alter Rebbe in Tfisa, in other words, means Hafatz Chassidus with Tfisa. But the Rebbe brings here more, not only that the Alter Rebbe's Indian was Hafatz Chassidus, so mainly the fact that he's freed is the goal of Teres Chassidus. The Gabi, the goal of Vitas Kislev, steht mefurish in the Sfardim that the Alter Rebbe's Meister was mitzad in of Hafatz Chassidus. Yeah, that's Gula is being a song of Hamayonis Teres Chassidus. Kedua asher sibas hakitrik ba'Meister lamata. Hoyi mitzad hashakvatari lamayla derech hafatzas rozi tere beizgalye va'at she'egia lekol echad be'echad. Yeah, so the Meister lamata was a result of the Kitrik Lamayla. The Kitrik Lamayla was because Mad Gahaten that it's not correct that Rebbe is being Mefarsam Chassidus. So the Geula means that his pashas of the Geula of Afatz Chassidus. It's interesting. Now I'm just want to read this. The Rebbe is mitzaying here. In this bar Baruch Hu K'Tasichas Chelik Lamed Amud 170. don't know if they printed in the back, but it's tam interessante Sach that it has also to do a little bit with the Lashon here, saying this Indian, what was the Kitrug Lamata was a Titzah of the Shakvatayr Lamaila, whether it's correct in Mefarsim Chassidus. And when that was on hold Lamaila, so maybe it was Nimshach Lamata, there was a Kitrug whether the Alter Rebbe should continue in Mefarsim Chassidus. What was the issue? What's the issue Lamaila in Mefarsim Chassidus? The Rebbe's Lashon is Kitrug Lamaila Fatas Razi Teire Beizgalya Ba'achi Gila Kolech V'Echad. So you stand, I mean, this Chilik Lamed, there's not a regular beer of why there was a Kitrug Lamaila for it to be a Fatas Chassidus. I say the regular Avani is, the Rebbe brings this many times also, that there is in Teire, there's Razi Teire, and there's Gufi Teire. There's Gali the Teire, and there's Primis Teire. And the gather of Primus HaTeirah is, the gather of Razi Teirah is that it should be a secret, it should be a Seder, it's only Shiz Galaber. You say the Pashta Dugma of you have the Moshe, the same way there's Nishmasi, the Reis, and Gufa Teirah, so there's the Nisham, the Gufa Adam, there's the Gufa Adam, and there's the Nishmas Adam. So the Guf has, Dover Gashmi, you could be tapis with Chosha Mishush, or with, you could see it, you could hear it, you could smell it. Mashiach and Nishama is a more ruchnistic thing, and there's other ways to be tapis than Nishama. You can't be tapis with a regular Gdor of your tapis Guf. So there's in Teirah. In Teirah there's Gufi Teirah, Nigla Derais, which is in Yanim, which are Shaykhs to Seichel. You can be tapis them through Seichel. Then there's Nishmase Derais, Razi Derais, which is in Yanim, which are by definition, this Chelik in Teirah is in Yanim, which you cannot be tapis them through Yanim of Seichel Vasago, or through the regular Kelim that you would tapis Galya Derais. So Alter Rebbe is being Megal Chassidus, Megal Razi Teirah, in the same Eifen of through the Lubushim of Seichel, which is the Lubushim of Galya. That's Heipach Einyan. The Razi Teirah by definition is a secret. It means by definition it says Yanim of Neshama and Yanim of Alakus, which are higher than that they be delivered through the bushim of Seichel V'Galya. That's a Kitur Glamayla. It's heipach the whole Hagdar of this Chelik in Teirah. And the Alter Rebbe Pelgeven didn't know Fatzach Chassidus because he was mamshach from Etzem Teirah. Mitzad Etzem Teirah not these akos. That's the in Chelik Lamed. The Rebbe says different beer. What the Kitur Glamayla was. The Rebbe says a whole different another. I don't know if it's Dealing with Denktas. Very interesting to say. Remember what it says there? So you think? The Rebbe says different word. I'm just going to say the Rebbe says a whole different word. The Rebbe says the word be'etzem. The Rebbe figured out na shaila. How could the Alter Rebbe with all the biurim chassidus the Alter Rebbe was mefarsim megader primis HaTeirah begilui the Alter Rebbe the Baal Shem Tov. As to we have a lach in Shulchan Aruch when they get how to be deirish ma'aser merkava. There's certain agbalas. There's agbalas not to learn Razi Teirah before a certain age. There's agbalas of how to teach Razi Teirah. You're teaching ma'aser merkava only to a certain type of talmud and to which there are nyanim which dinim in Shulchan Aruch. So how was Alter Rebbe able to kaviyachol halachas of Teirah are not something which is told in a certain zman. Halachas are inyanim which are going to be ad le'olam me'elam. Halachas of Teirah shlapeh. It's not inyanim zmanim. So how was the Alter Rebbe able to be in the Baal Shem Tov Megal Chassidus not according to the dinim and agbos state in Shulchan Aruch? That's the shas. The Rebbe is mevar over there. The be'etzem it says the reason why there's agbos in Shulchan Aruch when they get to how to be mefarsim razi, how to teach primis HaTeirah is not mitzad the chefts of primis HaTeirah. It's not that primis HaTeirah is a zam zach, which the only way to deliver it inside the mahus of Teirah, the only way it can be delivered is by learning it with a talmud which is made from midaita, let's say, or only biyachid and not b'tzibur. If the word the halachas were neveim inside the etzem mahus of this chelik in Teirah, what you couldn't change it. But the word inside the chefts of Teirah, it's one Teirah. And we made the same way nigla deraisa, the way that Teirah niglas is through pilpul talmidim and shakvatayr, all the din in the shit in Pirkei Avos. There's the primis Teirah should be is a chelik of Teirah, and also that Teirah mitzad the nature of that chelik should be able to be delivered in such a way. The reason of all the halachas Shulchan Aruch is because it's a chisaron in the people and yidden in the gavra. The gavra is not a keli to primis Teirah because the regular person is not a keli to primis Teirah. That's why you have all these agbolos. But b'shas the mitzias is going to be mishtan and the people are going to be kelim. The Mele Dagols are going to be Mishtan. That's the Rebbe's Meirich over there. So the Kiddie event, Alter Rebbe gehalten, the Yidden are already in a matzav, they went through all these Zechuchim, and they're already in a matzav, that they're Kalim for the person of Primis HaTeirah. Mashe Inkin, the Kiddie Gemalik event, Efsher Nish Tazeh. So it's all different types. Not that the reason why there's Kiddie was because by definition, the Primis HaTeirah can nicht übergeben werden through the Lubushim of Seich. But inside the Chefs of Teirah, everything's equal. Teirah and Teirah is nit, Teirah Tzivalon, Meishav, and Rashikil. They even should give the whole Teirah to every single Yid. Kelo Primis HaTeirah also. And B'meila and Be'etzem mitzad the mahus of Teirah, you should be able to be taught by Rabbim with the same way you teach Ligla that I say mitzad the chefs of Teirah itself. The other dinim of Shulchan Aruch is only because the gavra is not a keli. But if the gavra mishtanen is a keli, so the dinim l'chatchila aren't shay. It's a totally different beer than the beer of the regular. The Alter Rebbe's Meirich, the once the Alter Rebbe was at the Alter Rebbe, but Age passing that Alter Rebbe, with the Alter Rebbe sagt that the Yidden already kelim, so there has to be shakvatarian, primis HaTeirah, and la pashala, face the whole. So that's a whole different beer. But in the Lashon of the Pnim, it's killed both of these pratim. The Rebbe says the kitrug shakatar lamayla der chafotzas rozi teire beizgalia. That's the word of being megale rozi there. I said begilu, taking yonim of seit and tmura zeda der seit to make them begilu. That's hyper the nature of this chiluk. And the word va'at shegil kolechet bechad. That there's no agbolis on legabi the gabra. There's no agbolis. That's the other prat which the Rebbe speaks in Chiluk Lamed. That legabi the adam there's no agbolis of who you can teach it to. Yes, this Chiluk Lamed is not the classic beer. Yeah. Oh, so this meiser was mitzad hashakatari ben gefas raziter. Kasher hoya psak din lamaylu lahafes raziter. Ba'ad rabbe beyeser seis beyeser razum mish hoya kaidem meiser. So then mishas lamaylu from oge paskent. This battle b'meila din lamata b'yotzel l'chiris. Yeah, because the Metzias lamata b'frat when they get Nesi Yisrael is a direct result. The ishtalshus of the none the way they are lamay. It's not the pshat. Regular people, everything's mishneim masayin, but it's two separate things without Rebbe. But whatever happened lamata was a direct reflection of what the none were mitzat primi saying. So the b'shas in this battle when the kitrug b'meila is yotzel l'chiris lamata. So. Then verstandig from his movement should take an akosa for the Shalom nafshi, even though the Pashto Sakra is talking about to get to the Padah of David HaMelech from the Milchama of Avshalom had gewollt werden Melech, and David HaMelech was Padah nafshi from the Milchama of Avshalom, but it's shaykh to the inyan of Fatas Teres Achsidus. So this inyan of being Megale Razi Derais and being Megale in a way that every Yid is suited to this inyan, Kolech Ve'echad, that's the Teichen HaPasuk about the Shalom nafshi. Gilech is connected to the Shalom nafshi. Let's get in Zen. So in both of these pratim, side the prat of Pnimius being Nizgala is connected to Nukuta Padah B'Shalom, and side the prat that does not bother mitzad which person is Yabtim Mikabel. Both of these pratim are that's the Teichen Pnimi of the Pasuk of Padah B'Shalom Nafsh. Let's get into that. So first thing is going to be the beer when they get to the Pashto Sakra, and then Zakt Frier, Vibad Al Rebbe connects his geula to the amiras pasuk. That means that it's a kesher. The Alter Rebbe connecting means that the pasuk is connected. So al derech zed the drashes chazal the pasuk is also connected. So here Omer Azal Padah B'Shalom Hashem Mikravdi. Omer, so according to the chazal, drashes chazal, so another zach. So Retzach Nish David HaMelech is speaking on behalf of the Eibishter. Omer HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That kol esik with the nafshi geitas of an Eibishter. That kol esik b'teira b'gmos chasad m'spal l'matzibur. So Maila and your love, the Eibishter is considers it as if ki ilu p'ta'ani li levani v'enu m'sayla. His goal is Shechina, his goal is Yisrael, and b'shas there's Shalom, which has learned esik b'teira b'gmos chasad and all the pratim. So he's played the nafshi of the Eibishter. Yeah, the whole different types. So now, where is it? Oh, Pizi Shloime. Once you have this Rosh Hashanah, Neisef Lashach is about Teres Achsidus. The Technakavs Commission Kupshute, the Emikreisim Dipshute. Yeah, that's the club. Even though you have drashes, if you have two drashes in a pasuk, so you have one drash could be deich another drash. If you have a yitur in a pasuk and you use it for one drasha, so then that's maitzi or aker the other drash. You don't say that. When it comes to pshuta, you don't say that when there's the way drash touches a pasuk. So that's mafkia, that apitayra, that's the taich of the pasuk, and the simple meaning doesn't exist. The pashtus, the movement of the pasuk is always a pshata miti apitayra. The pasuk never loses its pashata avana. And B'nai Zilazed is also a drash, but it's never seiser the pashtas the avana. It's not the pshat, once Chazal taich Padah B'Shalom is going on the Eibishter, so that's Eiker, the pshut Shamika that is going on the Other. The pasuk is Emikreisim the pshut. Yes. What do they say? This the Rashi Sikh is that even when the Rashi brings a medrash, but it's not. But he doesn't quote a medrash. It's not. He doesn't quote a medrash. He quotes the medrash differently because Rashi is not bringing the medrash. He's bringing the medrash the way it's mechuyev api pshat. Pshat is a chelik of Torah. That's there's the havanas in the way it is api pashtus advarim. So Rashi is explaining Torah the way it is at the level of pshat. Even when Rashi brings a medrash, it's not that here he's explaining the pasuk api drush. He's using the drush in order to explain the pashas the kavan of the pasuk. But it's aim recreating the pshat. It's not the pshat that. I'm saying Samazay. If you have Lamashal in the last week's parsha, so Lamashal says that Noach was bit by a Aryeh. So what's the hechel pshat shemika that he was bit by an Aryeh dafka? This is a medrash state there was an Aryeh. So I say what mir gesagt. Rashi's from this hechel lesson pshat shemika that he was bitten, that he is gegangen blood from him. He is gener. Who said Dafka Nari? But Rashi, but the Medrash says who it was. Well, why shouldn't you say it? Even though the Medrash says it, but if Hapi Pshat is not Muchrich, so it's at the level of Pshat, Lav Dafka was an Ari. So it was a Chayiv Alma. It's not the Pshat that once you have the Drash, the Mele, it's for sure a line. It's not that. Hapi Pshat, that means according to a certain level of Torah, it was Lav Dafka Nari. The Amy creates him the pshat. There's the taish, the way there's a pshat. That's the blood. Okay, we'll focus on what it says over here. That David Melech was nifted, not in a way of Muhammad, not the pshat that David Melech had to fight and there was a whole Muhammad, but Beshalom he was nifted from the Merida of Avshalom. Sal derech zeh fast there's a shaykhs also the din of esik b'teira. Mos chasadim mispal lematzim. Okay. Now, so now we have two muvanim in the pasuk. You have the musik al pi pshat, the musik al pi drash, and now the Rebbe is going to go through each one. What's the havana of the shverikait in the pirush? When they have to give a reason for something that happened. If something regular happened, something standard happened, you don't have to give a reason. So I was looking for a Gemara and I went to the shelf and I found the Gemara. You don't have to say, why did I find the Gemara? You don't have to say, no, because. It's meant to be there. After something that happens, so the Mashma says, if David HaMelech was freed, that's a fact that if he would be freed from Avshalom through a war, and he would win him over, so then he wouldn't need a special nisnas now. The very fact that he was freed, okay, David HaMelech Avshalom was a Meir the Malchus, and David HaMelech was a grace at Tzaddik, and David should freed him from his tzaddik. The fact that the Padah was in the way of Shalom, it didn't have to be through a whole war. But the Anshe of Shalom Gufa were masking with David and the whole Pratei Advarim. That needs a special nisnas now. Via ter Zeiche given to such a way of Padah. So Avdem Zog had a special schus because B'Rabam Hayom. It's sinastam. That's the mashmas. He says, Heinish, actually, the Pash of the Pasuk is, B'Rabam Hayom is in the sinastam, the Padah B'Shalom Nafsh. He says, Hein, actually is Padah B'Efen Shal Muhammad. And then we wouldn't have to have a special reason for this Padah. Then it's, then the Eibusher, for that very fact that he was redeemed is verstandig. David HaMelech is a big tzaddik. But the special mile and the uftu, the yetzim and the kal of this Padah was the Padah B'Shalom. Oh, so dann verstehen zwei Sachen. First of all, what's this big mile of Padah B'Shalom dafke? Someone was in Tfisa. One way of leaving was that he had to leichem zayin against the prosecutor's Zerton, and he won, and he had to make a whole chveis mundam over. Another way is they came to the conclusion that he should be free. Avad, there's a big gain by leaving Geshalom. Different miles. It wasn't a big headache. Chveis verschiedene miles. But ad kedei kach that first of all it's a grace mile that he needed a special schus for it. And second of all, the shvach is not, say once a person is free, he's happy that he's free. Man of how he became free. The pashtus is, whether it was B'Shalom or B'Mulchama, it's just the eifin, how the Padah took place. It makes a big difference. Once he's free, okay, the pile, whether it was through a headache or not, it's gringer. It's more galactic if the Padah went without having a whole battle. But the pile, whether it was through a battle or through B'Shalom, is only in the Mitzvah that he should be freed, should be redeemed. What's the grace from the Mepasik is mashma that the fact that the Padah was B'Shalom, even after he was freed already, especially in the Sinas Taidan, the way the Padah took place, that it was b'derech shel shalom v'shalom. It was a peaceful redemption. And if it would have been not a peaceful redemption, so you would have had a temporary headache. So what? We're still going to be chaygig the fact that the Padah was in the way of shalom. Ad kedei kach the pasuk would have to, and ad kedei it's so important. This inner there was Padah b'shalom. They need a special schus for it. When I've them let's have the pasuk. The pasuk is not eisen to stam as they say the etzem in the Padah. The shvach is the fact that Padah b'shalom. What's so essential, so that we see from the Rebbe wants to bring out the idea of Padah, the kneitcher of the Pashas Ram learned from the kneitcher is that he was freed. Shalom is just the way he was freed. Here it's nicht as it. The diuk is that the Padah was b'Shalom, and then b'shteit the uft of this pasuk. And then verstehen what's the mile of Padah b'Shalom. Padah shalei be'efen shel shalom is nicht wegen dem rest of the pasuk. Not the etzem fact that David was nifter. Padah b'Shalom. And thus I'm understanding what's the mile from Padah b'Shalom and why Kiram Hayomadi a Shaykh is Ram Hayomadi the Padah b'Shalom. Why tak is that a schus? Because when I love him with me, the father Kiram b'Shalom. What's the Shaykh is Zelazah? That's the and that's the Nekuda. There is Maamar Pichsidis. The whole there's two ways of being paid a yid from his Nevesh Bahamis. One b'derech Muhammad, one b'derech Shalom. And there was Maamar and the Maamar the uftu of Padah b'derech Shalom. That's the whole Nekuda of Chassidus is. Till Chassidus the Padah was b'derech Muhammad. From the Tzad Shekeneged. The whole world is built that Zelu Mazar Salakim. There's a Muhammad between Kedusha and Klippa. So Tilchsid is the way to overpower Klippa was through Muhammad. The Uft of Chassidus is the Uft of La'asad Lavay is it'll be an Eifin of Shalom. That's the deal. Not the Etzem meaning of Gula. Of Nitzach and Ateva Lara. And Nitzach and Ateva Lara in a way of Shalom. And that doesn't get into the Prat. And the Tam is Mitzat B'Ram Hayomad. Now that's when you get to the pashtus. Hini bedrasha says Allah pasuk ze was sagt dort in kol esig betel was uns alle mat zibur. So Rashi is mafarish. Get this shaylas are Shadra doesn't deal with mafarish in the Maamar. Rashi says, where do you see the pasuk? Where's the remes for esig beteira? Because teira is called shalom. Kol nesiv says shalom. So the derech of teira of shalom. So shalom goes on teira. Ching gmach also shalom is made on gmach. Because mach brings shalom between people. Where is mispal matzibur? Where's mispal matzibur have to do with shalom? 10 people together, davening together, they don't have to be b'shalom v'shalva between themselves. Was buzet men in davening with a minyan the inif from shalom. So that's enough kibrabim hayu yomadi. The pirashashi sham kibrabim hayu yomadi she spadalu imi. So behind us shigimah inanim eilu terek mach and tefillah b'tzibur and chakol v'es chalukas. Terek mach ini b'shalom and tefillah b'tzibur ini kibrabim hayu yomadi. So that's the first thing. 3 things are guided in P'diyas HaKadosh Baruch Hu, P'diyas Yisrael and Agolas. Tefillah b'tzibur, gemach, and teira. Why is the pasuk mechalik it? That the 2 of them, teira and gemach, are nirmas in shalom, and tefillah b'tzibur is nirmas in v'ram ha'yumad. So chalash chal gimel anel m'shtei chalukis, yeah, that's our first thing. Ganzer chalash amru kol ha'esig b'teira. Shemedaber kam inyan ha'odam esig b'teira. V'lei be'inyan ha'teira gemach tefillah b'tzibur atzim. Yeah, it's interesting to shayla. So someone's going to say just the mashal ba'am, but someone says that you say a person has a what's great in P'diyas HaKadosh Baruch Hu me'agolos? Teira, tefillah b'tzibur, or a mensch was tut in Teira. He's what's great in Gula. You say there's a door, something is locked. This key is the key that opens up the lock. Of course, you need to have a person to put the key into the door and to turn it. But what opens up the door? This key is the key which opens up this lock. You have sometimes you use I'm using a mashal, just you have a key that's betzim not masim to the lock. But if someone knows how to dreh around, he knows how to chveis bimis asik darten, but there can an efen in the tir. So you say one way is if it's a key which opens up this door, you're going to say this key opens up the door. If you need someone to actually activate the key, so but not that the person's asik with the key opens up the door. This key opens up the door. Or you say that a person's going to use a hanger dart to open up a lock. So the hanger opened it up. Or you know how to move around dart, so you know how to open it up. So the Rebbe is saying here, why is the lashon that someone that's asik with Teira Masnal Matzibur is great in Gulas Hashchina? Teira has the ability to be paid to the world from to be Gulas Yisrael. Tefillah b'tzibur. I mean, that's how many Mr. learn in Teira. Versteht sich? But the lashon is mashma that the asik with Teira. Not like a lashon amurgal b'kom makim ashleishet dvarim ha'elam eimet Teira v'aved g'mos chasadim. Of course, you need yidden to learn. You're going to say Pirkei Avos. That's the fact that there's Teira in the world, not al zat, nicht al zat ha'elam eimet. At them as the Faran yidden must learn. But it's not that the yidden being misasik and learning the amidas elam is misachas to them. So that's not first thing. What's the pshat? It's not a shal in lashon. So he's not being ma'amid ha'elam. By him accessing Teira, the Teira is ma'amid ha'elam. For lashon kanu kol ha'esik. This shayla the Rebbe doesn't answer in the Maamar itself. That's in the, I don't know if you have in the Numa look at, but in the old look at, there's a sikha which is mitzurif to the Maamar. So the Rebbe is not fire. Okay, once the Rebbe explains that the Nekuda of P'diyah b'shalom is through B'chinas ha'yichid of Teira. So in order to bring out the yichid of Teira, you need to have this asfasad. The fact that Teira is great in Gulas HaKadosh Baruch Hu is mitzad the B'china of yichid of Teira. And the B'china of yichid of Teira is mitzad atzmi bis almas. Through a Adam ha'esik wa Teira, bring Teira reis B'chinas yichid. B'chinas yichid of Teira is nimshach and is galda through a yid. Okay, that's what in Zen. The Nekuda, the Rebbe is in the Maamar, how the Nekuda of Teira and Gulas HaKadosh we're dealing with something which is connected to yichid shebenefesh, which is Padah b'shalom. And the sikha the Rebbe touches up how it explains these diyukim. It's not stam Teira itself, it's the B'china of yichid of Teira. Maybe we can understand the Hemshech Advar. Good. Well, so now, I'm saying what from the Yuvan Zeh, that's a Tzchananai Indian. That's not even Behemshech, so to speak, to before. That's a new Indian. That's a Na'i the Yuvan Zeh, Behekt, Mashik. This is Yusad on the Maamar and Ein Hey. Have you started to print it? Okay. Yuvan Zeh, Behekt, Mashik, so Yiducha Hashem, Kol Ma'asecha, V'chasidecha Yibaruchuch. So, all the Meisim, all the Nefroim are made to the Eibishter, praise the Eibishter, and Chasidecha Yevarchucha. What's it as they say? Kol Ma'asecha do Yiducha. Vashekin Chasidim, Chasidecha, their Yevarchucha. So, steht in Zayar, what's the grace, what's Yevarchucha? The Pirish Yevarchuchu, Yevarchukai. So, steht in Zayar. Mavar Admar, Shmasid, Maamar, the Master of the Padah B'Shalom Hey, that Kai is the B'china of Malchus. The Yevarchu Kai Ul Hamshach Gilei Erba Malchus. That's what he says there. that Kaizman, that's what I mean in the Parshas Advarim, that Malchus, as the Alter says in Tanya, that the fact, the Siba, why the Elam was created in a way that it's a Dover Nifrid, that it's not, that it's a Metzias which is different than a Lukus, a Metzias Bifnei Atzmai, which is a Yesh, a Metzias not a Keli to Lukus, that's in Tzviras HaMalchus. If this Havas would have been mitzad the Bechina of Midis, Chesed wurde Teferes, wollte uns Havas gewaren Welt, but it wouldn't have been in a way that it would be an independent Yesh outside of Elikus. If this house being Mitzatziras Chesed, let's say, then the whole Metzias Elam would be just a Bechina to bring out the Eibishter's Taiv that is Mashpia Lekil. There wouldn't have, the Teichen of Welt wouldn't have been Stam as a heaven and earth. The Teichen of Welt would be Mitzatziras Chesed. So, what does Tziras Chesed need to bring out? That the Eibishter, the Taiv have blikvol of the Eibishter. How is it expressed the Pearl? That he's Mahava Velt and he's Mashpia Mechayes Kol Ha'elam. B'tuvei. That would be the whole content of what the world is. What's the world? A Pchina or the Metzias the Pearl, the Mimush the Pearl of the Eibishter's Chesed. Then it's not a Metzias outside of the Lukus. The fact that you have a Metzias of a Velt which is not in Eliki being this Gala here. The Eibishter B'Shafan Avel, there's a Shamayim, Ba'aretz, a Metzias from Avel, that it's a Zulas, a heaven and earth. That's in Tzviras HaMalchus. Tzviras HaMalchus, without going to the Pratet Dvarim, it's Tzviras HaMalchus, Melech B'Layam. The Am is not the Hemshech to the Melech. The Am is a independent Metzias, other than the Melech, far from the Melech. The Am is Rechekim, Zardim Rechekim Emaylas HaMelech. So in order to bring out the Eibishter's Malchus, that from Bashafan Avelt, which is distant from the Eibishter, it's not behemshech to any Elikit. It's a Metzias B'Fnei Atzmai, Shemayim V'Aretz. So that's Malchus, and the male Ader Malchus is so the Eifen Ashpo. So Malchus Peh. Why is Malchus Peh? Because you say the L'Mashal Nefesh Adam B'Pashtus, a person is the Seichel Midas of a person. A person's regesh. A person feels chveis. A person has a certain feeling or a certain havana. Another person, can be margish what the Reuven is being margish. Shimon can be margish what Reuven is being margish. There's two different people in two different worlds. So Reuven, the giluim of his nefesh, he's a keli for it. Shimon is someone else. Shimon is not a keli for Reuven's giluim. But through Dibur, you're able to communicate to someone else what's going on by Reuven. But when you're giving over the inyan, when you're communicating it to someone else, the regesh k'meishu by the Reuven can't be given over to Shimon. It's how much, since Shimon is a different mitzias, so it's how much Shimon is able to relate to, how much Shimon is able to understand. That's Koi. Mitzad Malchus, the Gile Lukus in Veld is an Eifen of Koi. Koi means it's not a Lukus k'meishu. It's a Lukus, the way a Lukus Kaviyachol is able to be mislabish and misalim to relate to the mitzias. So Malchus is called Koi. Sai the Eifen Esavas of Malchus is in a way that the Nivra is not the Hemshech to the Beir. It's a mitzias B'Fnei Atzmai. Al Derech said the Chayes Lekis, the way it's Nimshech in Malchus, to Veld. Mitzad Malchus is an Eifen of his Almas. So it's Koi. It's not the Indian the way it's Zed, the way it's this Indian itself is the way it is in Lukus is Nimshech in Veld. It's the Indian the way it is in a way that the Nivra, the Zulas is able to be taken. It's B'chinas Koi. And Malchus Mitzad Atzmai is an Eifen of Helen. Since Malchus Mahava Zulas and the Chayes Elkes we Nimshech Malchus in a way that an Elamis is nicht mehr Lukus. The Uft of Chasidecha is that der Mamshech Gile Lukus, Gile Erba Malchus. What is Gile Er? Es soll mehr sein, die Indian Kameshu Malchus. That's Gile Er. Not Mitzad Malchus alone. There's also going to be Ashpas involved, but it's going to be in a way Aderech like Dibur, where the Gili Eir of the Nefesh can't be mere to the Zulas. The Zulas is the Chatzveiter Nefesh. So through Dibur, you're mailim the Galus of the Keiches, and you give over the Indian how much the Zulas is able to be Tefes. You're giving over to him with your Regesh or your Havana the way he's able to understand, not the Inyan the way they are by you, and their Meir begili to him. How much is able to be Tefes? That's Malchus and that's much. Eged Uft of Chasidecha is Yivorchu as on Meir Zain Gile Er. Means the Inyanim, the way they are in a Lukus, those on Meir Zain Begili in Veld. Gile Er Malchus. That's a special Uftu. But Davke Chasidecha can an Uftu. Nemer Chasidecha Yivorchu Chodam. Shachazu Bekei Chasidecha. I don't know if Misami they don't say the Hemshech. But you'll see the Dir Chasidecha means there's the Rebbe Shalom the Maamar speaks that there's different targets of Tzadikim. There's Tzadikim, there's Yishardim, there's Chasidim, so not verschiedene dargis. So you have tzaddik. We're not dealing with stam as a b'chin of tzaddikim that are you have gittin which never sinned. The Alter says in Tanya even a tzaddik that's meiz bara. Netach tzaddikim that are mamshech and change the mitzias elam, mamshech gidei lekusim vel, and they transform the Metzius, and Andrini. Like the beginning of Basalagani, you have Shiva Tzadikim, Sheiridus Ashchino Ma'ay Lamat. So given Tzadikim Farah Avraham Echet. But they were Tzadikim, Chanech was a Tzadik, but he lapali didn't change the Metzius element and Gebitten. For sich alleine, he had to Kemelish Gezindik, the Rizmayis Bara. Then you have Tzadikim that they're Mamshech, and they changed the whole course of Seder Shlashlis. Ba Avraham Hitzchel Ahoyer, San Andrini. And they started to be Mamshech the Shechina Lamata. And with that in itself, the Retter in the Maamar, and hey, there's Chassidim, there's Tzadikim, there's Yesharim, different dargis within this. So Dafke to be Mamshech Gile Erba Yivarchu Kai, Dafke Chassidim. The Shaila is what Dafke Chassidim. You have Tzadikim Echad, the Lashon Medrash, Tzadikim are Mamshech the Shechina Lamata. Gile Erba Welt is Eich Tzadikim, but it's Dafke Chassidim. So that's like there too. So that's the right. It's a kilo shaila. Was that from Dafke? Even the Indian of Gibi Mamshech Gidul Lukas and Veld. Avad it's in Niflamay. Was that Chasidech Dafke and not Chveis other Yisharim and Tzadikim. So the Bainin who the Zeh Chasidech Yivarchuch Besmichus Ubehemshech Leiducha Hashem Kol Maasecha. It's not the pshat that we're saying two separate things in the pasuk. Maasecha Yiducha and then Chasidim come and their Mamshech Gidul Malchus. So that's like was fara Hamshacha der Mamshech. Ki Hamshacha b'Malchus. Adi Chasidech Mimakem Nailam Eid. In such a mile mishtalshalus, shin shaykh beisa hasaga ele yidabavad yiducha. So that's a myth. Mamsh giler malchus mitzadatz me is not mechayiv. I'm saying even if you're mamshich, there's a lakus the way the Eibush is mislabish in tzfiris in kelim. The way the air is mislabish in chacham in chesed. Even that Indian, the pel mitzad malchus, it comes in the way of his almas, in the way at how much the nivra is a keli lekab. The uftu, that's a big uftu. There should be Meir chesed. The way it is in the lakus, das allein zal Meir sein in Welt. It should be Meir in Welt when a yid's mekabel chveis mezayne. It should be Meir begole that it's the isgalus of the Eibusher's chesed. That's the uftu gadol meid. Nachan sedatz meid. The niver wouldn't be a kedi kisashim. But that's nicht for them. Dafür shalom chasidecha daf. The uftu chasidecha is that a mamshech hazam esert air which is higher than the air that mislabish beked. That's yiduch Hashem kol meid. Who das merum is in the pasuk. Or mamshech air shalamaylim mislabish beked l'malchus. For them, that's an onkomets the chasidecha daf. Where do you see that we're dealing with an air shalamayla from mislabshus? The lashon pasuk is it's coming from Yiducha Hashem. So Yiducha Hashem kol ma'asecha. But this Yiducha is nimshach begili in malchus through chasidecha. Yeah, the Elam knows this. Yeah, the Alter Rebbe is masbir. Saying when you say the word Yiducha, Hida. I'm saying Hida. What does Hida mean? In Cheshvan, but the Chassidus Mavar that you have Melech Chacham that have Meir. So if you're going to say that Chachamim, the Adam Achleikis, and a Meir has a masbir event, and he convinced them that his day is right, so they're not made it in. They allein halt nazir. They themselves agree with what he said. The lashon made is not shaykh. They allein verstehen nazir. So what's the pshat? They're made it to him. We use that lashon. We say, I agree with you. I agree with you. Why? Because you realize that that's what is right. It's fascist the allein nazir. But the Yiducha means that even though in Hasaga verstehe ich nicht the day of Reb Meir, but you recognize that you have to be made to what Reb Meir says. That Reb Meir is higher than you, and he has a deeper tfisa than you. So I don't understand what he's saying, but I come to the recognition that that what you're saying is correct. Not because I understand what you're saying, because I come to the recognition that you're on a higher level than me. So Hidah means that a person acknowledges the emes of an Indian which is higher than his kid. That's the Nekudah of Hidah. Some of the attachments here, Yiduch Hashem kol ma'asecha. Red nicht Maasecha when you get Elam Hazel. Red Maasecha the B'chinas Achil Yenis. So you have a B'chinas Kol Maasecha Elam Asal Yenim the Hechste Dargis. There's a B'chinas Alakus which a Nivra is not able to be Teifus. It's not able to be Niskabel in Kelim. The Hechste Kelim was a Kenner Zayin. The Hechste Musig of Metzias. It's Ein Sof Shalomayla Meseder Shlashlis. Mayla Mishlashlis. So the only way to relate to this Indian is it's Nishaychas Asaga. The Pshitas of Alakus higher than Kelim. But you can come to but mizmeid, miveis that the Rebbe is Ein Sof and higher than our hasad. Not that you understand. Chachamim lo yochlu lamed the same deity of Reb Meir, so they were made it to Reb Meir. They realized his aflav and nishmat and verstand. So that's the Yiducha is the Dargan Elokus, which the only way to relate this in a way of hasaga because he's beyond the whole meaning of hasaga, beyond the whole meaning of tzir and metzias. So mamsha zayin the pshitas Elokus, the eretz of abligvo, which is not shaykh to any of hasaga. Das manche seine Malchus, da ich nicht chassidech. Now, dem like the Rebbe zu noch word, it's in fact the big Erin Sof Malchus, ich nicht as Aflo. You don't need chassidech for that. The uftu is the way they're mamshich Erin Sof Malchus. To be mamshich be'efen, the bracha is b'kei chassidech. That's going to be the first arichis. I'm saying every Indian over here is to be mamshech gilui eire machos zechidus in Seder Shalshus. Mitzad Metzias Hadvarim, Mitzad Metzias Ha'olam, the Yesh is not a keli for gilui eire. It's Omer Zen Alukus, the even shall gilu. The Inyan and the way they are Lamaila should be Meir Lamat. Azulas, keli to the Indian Kameshu. That's alone uft, but that does have them come and onkommen to tzaddikim and andere darges. To be mamshech erin sof in Welt, not stam the Elukus which is shaychas the kelim, but the Welt is much lower than that. The mamshech erin sof the way the Eibush is ba'atzmai, higher than kelim, higher than asaga, higher than mitzvahs. The erin sof kameshu. That to be nimshech in Welt is avada chidish niflamay. That should be meir in Elam Hazah. Even that does have an ich nicht onkommen zu chasidech. Nicht in dem besteht da flow. Da flow is to be mamshech in a way of bracha. And then besteht du. Let's get to Masber. What's the? That's a couple of shlavim. Let's hit on the Rebbe. So here I'm saying this. The element of memory. Yeah. The way I'm just but the way the Rebbe starts is first the musik of bracha and tefillah pashtus, and then how they bracha and tefillah symbolize two efan and the elokus is nimshach in Welt, or the vitz verbinden the Rebbe in Welt. But the first pashat the musik of bracha tefillah the way it is pashat in regular musik. But that results from the two efanim of v'mamshas and elokus in Welt. Bracha tefillah. Okay, since it. גדל להב in גדל אילה דם שחלב לדבר מה מקום שהוא היה אידו was besteht der גדל אילה שבזה to be mamshich in a way of bracha von a zasser darge which dorten is a shayches in of asaga the way because it's in of eating sof lamaila mishnal shalos so is maktem in the Maamar and I'm be is a chilik min bracha litfila pashtus advar shebekol echad nem yishmael legabi zolos vaynim so frier hebt er Masber sein der Maila bracha tefillah imamata l'mayla. Your person is lamata, and he asked the Eibusher to be mashpiyim certain Hashem chayis. Chayis, the ki'imcha makar chayim. The Eibusher is the makar chayis, the makar hashpa. And the nivra is lamata. Bet b'am Eibusher that the Eibusher should be mamshechim the hashpa m'mayla. So that's the tefillah, mata l'mayla. Mispal lamata mavakesh hashpiyah l'mayla. That's tefillah. Bracha m'mayla lamata. Shamavarech l'mayla me'asher shemen m'shach zabracha mamshechis m'mayla lamata. I'm saying the dogmas that we're going to say, you say a person himself. A person could have the potential, let's say, can learn it. As a pile mamash, in order for him to understand the sugya, he's going to have to be mashkiya seichel and mashkiya me'ach. So, you see, mitzadatzma in his mind right now, in his me'ach, it nicht melubish to keich ha-seichel. And b'meila vet zayin davanas ha-sugya. He's going to have to activate his me'ach and be mamshach his keich ha-seichel. They should actually start learning. That he's bekeach to do. You have the bias over your keich ha-seichel. And it gets machlet zayin areinlegen sich in a certain sugya. But you have, let's say, lomer zog in the order to understand this Gemara, you have to have a higher level of seichel, which is pnimius hanefesh. So we can't access that argument. If you would have the ability to be mamshach that, what given anders. So you have a bracha is you have the person gefindt sich lamata, and there's the hashpas. There's no hashpas chayis to him in his guf. Lamata wasn't hashpas chayis. But you have in a shadish, you say b'dikus to say b'negei to the nefesh. You have the seichel amalubish b'mayach. You have the seichel that you're able to access without yigiyah, let's say. You have keich ha-seichel which through yigiyah be able to be mamshach. You have keich ha-seichel the way it's in a deeper way, in primis ha-nefesh. If theoretically, it's also in your shadish, you have the keich ha-seichel the way it's behelam ha-nefesh, theoretically if someone would be able to be mamshach from his keich ha-seichel of the nefesh, what gekent sein at the seves hashpa from a keich ha-seichel to the nefesh. So there's in the nimshal you have a person lamata. The mitzias lamata there's a certain from the shadish of the chayis of the person. Bis verdimshal lamata get to ganze seder shlashos. In the chayis lamata she'eli mazel. So the hashpa doesn't go directly from atzilas directly to lamata. It goes through all seder shlashos. So you can have that it get stuck somewhere on the way. So and the mavarech has imitzer which she has the yechelis to be mamshach the Indian from that darga lamata. As a person has the ability to be activate the seichel because you're higher than your seichel. You have the ability to be mamshach it. So derech zeh you have a yid that he has he's higher than Yitzira, let's say. So you have different dargas. You have, let's say, the ashpa was nimshach in asiyah ruchnis but not lam hazagashmi. So you have a yid that he has he's in tune to the inyan that they're higher than chinas asiyah ruchnis. Can a mamshach in asiyah ruchnis lamata? Or you have a yid that's higher than bria. You have different dargas. Different brachas. You have different stuff. I'm not saying Mashas and Maisis, but I'm saying that certain chveis daily Yisrael. I'm talking about the Yidden which had the dargis that they were this in it they weren't able to be mamshach. They had to send you to another tzaddik to be mamshech. Means there's different dargis in which madrega they're able to be mamshech lamata. Because the idea of bracha is that from the shefa, the way it is in the sherish, to be mamshech lamata, to be nimshech lamata to the mizbarach. So that's the nekuda bracha. Bracha ma'ila lamata. Shamavare is the diuk here. The mavare chula ma'ila me'asherish v'nen nimshech zabracha. And because he's lamailo, mamshech is lamaila lamata. Yeah, this week's parsha. Just this here. Zeh shebrachi b'derech tzibur. The far bracha is always b'derech tzibur. It zol zayin azeh. Why? Kibbutz shamavare chula ma'ila me'asherish v'nen nimshech zabracha. B'keichel etzavos. He has the ability that the Indian, the way it is lamaila, a person has a resource of something. It's my thing. I'm able to give it. I'm able to give it to someone else. So Al Derech said the bracha is a yid which has that a bare haste that the b'china b'tzirish nimshach lamata. So the b'china b'tzirish is somehow meshubetin nimshach lamata. So the mavarech is hecher from the ashpa the way it is in the sherish. And that's also the beer why bracha dafke misha keichel levarech nish yadein convention. K'mei Avram Avinu shamla bracha kish baruch hu habrach is nesunis la. Asher ilek v'tfila shkol echad yochel yispal. B'serim shkol echad nistavel yispal. Parshas, it's not we learn that the Parshas at the bottom, it's not a yichus, everybody could daven. You're not affecting anything by davening. It's nicht that's it. Doesn't say later. By davening, you're not, if you're davening, you're not affecting anything, you're just asking. So about that, everybody could ask. What's the grace? Yadenik reflect. In Parshas, you say the Chiddush is, maybe to say you have a the Melech Malcham Lochem, in order to get a meeting, in order for you to have a request, you have to be a Psak Choshev Mensch. So, Yeder Einer can bet on my Mibishter. That's a means you don't have to be a dargim yechedes in order to be mevakish from the Eibush Hazak. Yeah, the inner can bet. Not only that, miznistav levakish. But the Rebbe later is mercy even more. Lepel tefillah tutu is yet tutu fepes, and the chiddush is everybody can do it. But Kaplan here the word is bracha, which is milmai lamata, so you have to be takayid, which is hecha from the sherish. Tefillah, which you're asking, that even if you're asking nisha the inner can angin some kenig. And to say your request there. So the name, anybody could ask. Why? Because you're taking up, even though you're lamata, you're able to, you're being mevakish, lamata, mele against the flag. Why? So from Mizem Uvenes, Hamayla Bracha Legabi Tefillah. Why? Because Tefillah, she bakosha, Shem Shichos Ashpa, Ein Vados, Shetismala bakosha. The Rebbe saying here is, so what see later in the Nimshal, what the Rebbe wants to bring out, the Gabi Chassidus, the Gabi Nigle Derais, and what's Bashteta, the Uftu. But the Rebbe saying here about is, first of all, it's a mile, the Mavarech is in a higher darg. We're talking about a mile in Bracha, not a mile in the Mavarech. The Rebbe is not asking here to explain a mile in the one that gives brachas over the one that davens. That's not. We want to bring out here the mile in the Amshacha B'derech Bracha over Amshacha B'derech Tefillah. That's what we want to bring out. Of course, the Mavarech is higher than the Mispal, but that's not what's negate at Amshcha Maimon. What the Rebbe wants to bring out that Chassidus has the mile of bracha, this whole arichis, Chassidecha Dafka is there's a special hamshacha and a way of bracha. What's the mile of once you get the result? That's it. Tefillah. Once you get it, what's the grace to uftu that it was through a bracha Dafka? The mile of the hamshacha bracha is that it's a davar vade. It's with zicher zayin. There's no sfeigis. It's a zicher nimshach. That's the. We'll see when they get to the Indian. We'll see why this is pratis negeh. So this is the mile of bracha. Tefillah shiva kosher is other name. In badosh this mile of kosher. But bracha shiva derech tzivoy vade shetum shechashba. Kivin shama barach lekeich leitzavos. So it's a double vadoy. Interessante Sache. Or 15. Wer hat gesehen das? Efshir li is iko v'kabos hashpa mitzad hamizborich she'ene kela barach gezmez avali b'amshar hashpa mitzad hamavarich. First, the Pirish Amilis, Amol Machonatos, was just the Rebbe saying here. You have, let's say, in the Marshal, you'll say you have, or let's say the Dugma that Chassidus always brings that the Friedrich brings that the Brach of the Rebbeim could only like a derech like rain is only going to be matzmiach and a karka cherusha. So you have one eifin is that someone's mamshach, let's say someone's masber a svara to Talmud, the Talmud's not a keli to the svara. So the idea wasn't nimshach lamata mata. So the Pashas of Colossians mashma is that mitzad the bracha mitzad there's no problem with Ashpa. There's a problem with the Mekabel. He's not a Keli. So if he's not a Keli, it means that Ashpa wasn't nimshach on his level. So then it's not b'derech vade. What's the Rebbe saying? It's Ken Zayin Amor that the mitzad the Mevarech everything is good, mitzad the Mashpia, but mitzad the Mekabel doesn't equal. What does it mean the Mekabel is not a Keli? He's not a Keli means that he's not. You say Imit says Masber Aseichot Talmud, and the Talmud, and he's even with after all the Esbeirim, the Talmud is not a Keli. He's not Roy to understand this word. So then the Hashpa wasn't B'Shleimus. He wasn't Mashpiyat in a way that the Tachton is able to relate it. So that's a Chisar in the Kabbalah, Chisar in the Hashpa. So it wasn't, if that's the tight Shiur, the word is, Mitzad, the Ebesh is Namshech Hashpa Mumata, of Chaya, whatever we're dealing with in the Mashal. The Poel, the Adam Lamata is Guf, is not a Keli to this Chayas. So that means that the Guf, that the Chayas was an Nimshech in a way that relates to the Guf. That's Chisar in the Hashpa, not a Chisar in the Makab. So it's in Vados. So what's the mind in the Pnim? That it's not a Vados Namshech. The Rebbe is saying that the Ikuv is a different Ikuv. That's the Mashal of the rain. You say, what's the Rebbe's word that the Habrach is Adarech rain? Rain, the fact that rain is B'Keichel Atzmiach, that's not a Lamat. In Elam Hazagashmi, you have Tipos Geshem, which are B'Keichel Atzmiach. Doesn't have to go to a lower level. The difference is, in order for the rain to work, the karka has to be roy, has to be able to mekabel the rain. That's something else. That's not like when you get at Talmud, where the Rav gave him a svara that he's able to understand. But the poil, whatever means that he's not a keli, means not that the Inyan is on a higher level than him. The Inyan is able to affect hashpa on his level. But the poil, he has to be focused. If he's not going to be focused, you say, karka zruah. There's rain. And the rain is b'kayach latzmiach. Not b'kayach latzmiach on a higher level. The hashpa is b'shleimus. The rain is b'kayach latzmiach. But if the karka is not chorush, the karka, so the karka is not able to, so the poil is not going to be mismamish this bracha. Not because the inyan wasn't nimshach lamata mata. You have an even that the inyan is nimshach lamata mata, but there's an issue mitzad mekabel that there's a blockage from him. Not because the inyan is not on his level, because the inyan is on his level, but he's blocking it from being nimshach. The karka is built his ruah. There's a rain that's shy, but the karka of poil is not. Is not what I'm saying. That's the diak over here. So the wants to bring out here is that in the nimshal we want to bring out that hashpa b'derech bracha means that it's bevade nimshach lamata. Bevade nimshach lamata. Either lapel we see that a bracha comes and it has tnaim. That's not tnaim mitzad the hamshach of the eli. That's tnaim lapel. The makabel is going to turn his face away. I'm going to give you. Someone gives someone else a $1 and he turns away his way and pushes it away. Good, that's your problem. Not because nothing's lacking dashba. That's neget. The Bildach is saying that when you say yivarchucha, the hamshachim inside the yivarchucha is in a way of vada. There's no havamina that it shouldn't affect elam hazeh. So how does that fit with the musik of bracha? Lapel and bracha we find the matter that could be a was. Then Dr. Rebbe, bracha is vada mitzad the hashpa which is nimshach. What the mevarech is doing is always with that vada. The Makal, we need sometimes the Makabel's involvement. That's something else. But mitzad the Mavarech's in it is b'shleimus. It's with that. That's negeh for the reason why it's negeh lahadgir is that's negeh for the Bosmavilla race limit from the Indian. The Gabi if two efanim and Amshach still kusim the steif is the Indian. We feel madavar as it. Good. Mash inkin. That's the mila of brach. That's vados. Oh, now the mile of tefillah gabi bracha is that it's a higher amshach, higher darga. Ba'amshach atzma. The amshach shadi tefillah is not the seser. Inyan abracha ulahamshich mashikvar nimtza ba'amak. But not a new inyan. It means whatever is already. You have the nivra lamata. You have the he has this neshama lamata. There's a neshama nasiya ruch. It's a dargis. The hashpa already exists. There's already hashpa of chayim. The nimshach and the shadish shemakar of this nivra. But the problem is that it's not nimshach lamata mata. So the bracha is mamshach lamata. But if it doesn't exist b'chlal and metzias, the amshach of chaim for this person, there's a stirtish nishtalshalos. B'tzadish you have a yid which is sheirish shemakar is b'tzad tzviras achesed. Let's say he's nimshach tzviras achesed, and imisabel mamshach and lechveis meichente. But lepoil even b'tzad sheirish shemakar in this type of reality there's no chachma lechveis or a certain b'chin of chachma. In this metzias b'sheirish sheirish achi elyon there's no musik of chachma. That's a different Indian. So that's an issue. Even within the highest dargis, his neshama is not connected to this Indian of Ashpa, which we want to be mamshah. So, but can be mamshah in Mishir Shemakar. So for that, and in it, what does it say it? In Amar Shalom, she's coming to the Chodesh. In that fidu, bakash magidish baruch, gam bim lo yesh nechas v'shal mashpa, gam ba'amakir. Means v'lo eid el shenigzer olo sheyachele. Means mitzvah seder shtashalus, he cannot be mekabel this Indian. There's a system l'poel. And mitzad seder shtashalus, mitzad the seder the way Amshachas Lamayla work is the same in Elam Hazagashmi. You have sometimes when there's heat, let's say, or the sun is beaming, so it's dry. So you're going to say It should be water. The world, when the sun is shining, there's no space for moist, let's say. In the desert, there's no space for moist. So inside the Sheresh Makar of a desert, there's also no space for moist. Sheresh Makar of a desert is connected to the Vivacious, or of Shemesh. This reality is a midbar, and mitzat Sheresh Makar Achi Elyon, he's a stira to the of Lachos, let's say. So not only there is no Lachos, Chaim is a stira to Lach. Mitzat the Gdorim of Seder Shlashalos, this Mitzias is a stira to that Mitzias. So you have an Eif where you have a Nivra Lamata, each Yid has his function. You have a Yid, not only this function doesn't contain that in it. It's a stira Yanin. Niggas are the Ma'al Shiur. Watch out, why niggas? There's some little zanch left. I'm saying, Mitzat Seder Shlashalos, this person has to be in such a state. But Duk was like we're going to say that in the midbar there should be rain. It's not the pshat felt regen. It means in a midbar. It's a makim chayim, a makim vivacious. It's heipach that in. You want to make a new mitzvah something else. The mamshech rain in a midbar is going to be heipach. Is mitzad gdorim of mitzvahs. Can it say? But the Eibishter, he created the whole musik of Seder Shlashos, the whole system he created. If you're mamshech on the Eibishter himself, can a mamshech on yerregen, even in the desert. It's a different Indian. But that's mitzad insof. It's sad that dargel which is before this is gestalt geworden. The whole Gidrei Seder Shlashos, mitzad that darg, you don't have the limit of the system that was is garbage that Seder Shlashos. That dafke through tefillah come out. Das kann mit brache kann man nicht uftan azazah. Through tefillah kann man nicht uftan azazah. That's in that every single pashtus. In that tefillah Yid's asking the Eibishter himself. Shigam bim lo yesh chas shalom shva gam makar lo yesh nigzer lo shiyach el chas shalom case, but it means that it's heipach hametzis in Seder Shlashos. Mekomakim tum shchle ashpa chadash am eren sof shel malim Shlashos. Yeah. V'zeu shem kamat to see here rots in pirish here rots and chadash means a new am shachin dot. Oh, so it means an rots and chadash means that a dark Indian which mitzad in mitzias was still not nimshach. So nimshach war an naya am shachin dot. Was nicht gemeint für mitzad insaf. Why dafke through tefillah? So brach hat me verstanden why brach is with the vada is because the mavarich is with the tzibur. He's hard in the shesh on brach. Why is tefillah mamshach meitzah? Pash is going to say the Frierdiker Rebbe is mashal. No, he goes say why say there's how do you say there's the middle class and there's the first class in the train in Russia. So you say who goes in the first class? Middle class is all middle class people. Who goes in the first class? The Gvirim and the Armalite. Because a regular person pays, he buys his own ticket, so he doesn't have enough money to pay. He goes to the regular class. The only even for the regular class hatunish can go. Saivas he has to take from someone else. So already taking from someone else is also gain a further yenim cheshvan. If he's going yenim cheshvan, also in first class. So that's the part. You're asking anyway. You're asking the mispal is lamata. He has no kayach to be mamsha. So you're asking. You can ask for anything. What's the problem? You're asking the Eibishter himself. You don't. But the Rebbe says it's nicht das. Atam azeh shamshach is chodesh u'adei tefillah dafke ki l'maisi yedech tichsev. V'lchein adei tefillah aveda samata magim l'nefsav shemalim yishtalshlos. So even b'pashas al penigle, why is tefillah? What tefillah is? Chassidus for sure tefillah is aveda samata. It's the never being mezach himself. But the Rebbe is dealing with the regular musik of tefillah. It's a musik of aveda samata. Because the musik of azeh, a person says that's me is a yeshu mitzias, and a person is hatzazay mitzias. To ask someone else for something is a certain achno. Say to go over to someone, to be needy to someone else and say, please, could you please give me something? That's a certain achno and bittul. That's aveda samata. Yid gate bet by the Meibishten that he's being mevatel himself. The mata is coming to recognition that he doesn't, he's not self-contained. So the Meibishten that by him beten, that's achno. That achno, the bittul and the yeshes of the mata of the tachtin, that vaser bet. That's me'er. That's me'er. That's in them. B'lemaisi yedech tichsev. What's me'er the Eibishter's primis ataynig is the aveda samat. That a person himself is machniya himself. It's not the pshat aveda. By the bracha you say he's mamshech omal. He has access. Here you're getting the Eibishter's nachas ruach. It doesn't mean that it's going to have to result in the Eibishter's. You're mamshech and you touch the primis ataynig of alukus. It doesn't mean that it's going to have to result in being mamshech anu amshach to you. The poil, the milia bakosha is not b'derech vada. It's a suffix. But the poil, if you want to be mamshech something from Ein Sof, what reaches Ein Sof is aveda samata. Tefillah, the bittul anivra. L'chena, the tefillah aveda samata megim Ein Sof shemalim yishtalshlis. So piz wird man verstehen. Gedel ilia brach. Sham shechosi magush beyayidah. Here you have mamish bracha b'shtei amaylis. L'chor says tarti desasri. Your mamshech hadarge, which is Ein Sof shelamayla mi moker hamitzias. Ein Sof shelamayla mi seder shtalshlos, mayla mi shtalshlos. And it's nimshech in a way of brach, and it's nimshech in a way of derech vadoy. I'm a mayla matter. That's the mayla of Chassidei Chadav. Haina shadi brach hazu nasa rotzen chodesh hamayla de tefillah. Va'afa b'kein, he late tefillah b'kosha ala brach, b'derech tzivit. That is not saying that the Mavarech is higher than himself. We'll see the Prat later. But the Rekud is, like I said before, what we're bringing before when we get to the Maila Bracha like Tefillah is not the Maila of the Mavarech over the Mispal. It's the Maila in this way of Hamshacha or that way of Hamshacha. There's a Maila, the Hamshacha of the Tefillah is a higher Hamshacha from a higher Darga. The Maila of Bracha is that it's definitely Nimshach. Here we have both Mailas. The Maila of Ein Sof and it's B'derech Vada. B'derech Chod, not B'derech Bakosha. Oh. And I then bring the Rebbe. This is the Cholistic Indian that's brought name. Who are derech the Isa Yerushalmi? We'll see later a big emek in this Yerushalmi. But state in Yerushalmi ala posuk vatigzer eimer vayokamach. Pashas Dvarim is a tzaddik macht gzeira is geyser, and the Eibishter is mekayim. Tzaddik geyser kish baruch mekayim. But the lashon the Yerushalmi says state in the posuk that the Eibishter doesn't agree with the tzaddik. It says the tzaddik, whatever the tzaddik says vayokamach, the Eibishter is going to fulfill for him. But the Yerushalmi says, "Afilu hu Omar Hachin." The Eibishter sagt, soll der sein Kach. When a tzaddik sagt verkehrt, die doch keima die like kann. I think it's brought up with the Vayokim Loch. It's mashma the Vayokim Loch. Means mitzad the Eibishter himself, but doch nicht gewollt durchführen der Sache. Because you said so, I'm going to do it for you. So Yerushalmi is medayik that the Derech Pasuk is even if beim Eibishter kommt es, there's mitzad seder shlashlos. There is an anders. HaKadosh Baruch Hu means the Darga of Lakus is already connected to the Sherish Shemakar Ha'elam, to the Seder Shalashos, even though mitzad that Darga, mitzad Seichel HaTeira, let's say, or mitzad Inyan, we have mitzad Seder Shalashos. Dar sein in a certain way, but mitzad Tzadik Geyser is the Doch Kaima the Dilay Kaim. There's going to bring later, Kama Maamar Chazal, but they get to this Nekuda of a Tzadik being Geyser, Kaviyachol not Kfi Das Kutshe Brichu, and Tzadik Geyser HaKadosh Baruch Hu Makayim. But this lashon of the Yerushalmi, we'll see later a special diuk that even though Kadosh Baruch Hu Amar Hachin and At Amar Hachin, the tzaddik sagt anders, the doch kaima di dilay kaim. What you say is going to be what's going to get gained. Let's say the dilay kaim. Zeh Kadosh Baruch Hu mevatlos gizrasim tegzeres tzaddik is mitzad Ein Sof Shamal me says the on one hand. And it's the even of Gzeir. Tzaddik mamshech rotzen chodesh hamal the tefillah. He's mamshech meir in sof. Shel ma'ale mikutsh brichu. Mikutsh brichu is a darga the way Lakus is mitzad the way the Eid is mislabish in Seder Shlashos. Mitzad that darga there's gdorim. And so one at the tzaddik is mamshech meir in sof shamal mi Seder Shlashos. Even bit like Gzeir hu le'adi bakosha the Gzeir is a tzaddik. Ma'as abrachu should be derech tzivit. So we have to understand what's made with this kamash love in the Maamar. First the Rebbe is Meirich to Kama pratim and get what's that flow of Hamshacha b'derech bracha. It's Kama pratim b'zeh. Then we'll have to understand what's the pshat that Chatzidecha are able to accomplish it. That's the. So here the Rebbe is mamshich. No, this is a. You get weiter a bissel. You get weiter. Where was the Elam holding? Huh? This is a ganze Indian. This Indian. Okay, we'll go weiter. Mamshich by Maamar Hamshacha shadei bracha Chatzidecha derech Hamshacha shadei teir. This is says the Maamar. In the Maamar, you're looking at hey, everything comes as a bracha, and Teira comes as a bracha. Each prat is another diuk. There says a Mishkin Pash the Indian though. So we find that there at Teira, we see this type of Indian through Teira also. Teira b'chlal. Al there Teira nas a shini v'chidush b'eila. Hainu shenasu davar chodesh lohei gam sheyesh makar eila. V'ashini v'achidush sholei b'derech bakosha ki b'tfila ela b'derech meila. So we find this in Ayid, which is connected to Teira. Kemen durch Teira mishana zayin. Die mamshach hamshachas in the world. Also hamshachas which are not in the sheresh hamakar. And b'derech bracha, not b'derech bakosha. What's the doing that it brings the Maamar? We'll see later. The Alter Rebbe the Rebbe is coming to explain. That's himself that through Teira you can be mamshach in yonam shahar in seder shlash. The Alter Rebbe look at the Teira. The Alter Rebbe says the Pichas ben Yair. So we said he told the Nar Ginoi Narach Chalek Li Mimecha. So Kreis Yamsov machen the ganze Yom Tov Shvi Shal Pesach. The Eibishter is Hafech Yom Le'Abasha. Pichas ben Yair, he was going for Pitin Shvuyim, and he made a Chalukas Anar. Machtash Kein Shum Zachnish therefore. So Alter says Kreis Yamsov was only a Maila before Matan Teira. Once a Yid has Keich HaTeira, once it was Matan Teira, since Teira Lamata, so it's not a Chiddush that a Yid Bekeich HaTeira could be Mevatel the Metzias about. That's so. But it's not again the Prat. I just want to make it that some word. So in Ayin Beis he says, when you look in the Maamar, it ends up being very, the Rebbe makes a whole thing out of it. But the Maamar sounds like it's bringing, also I did Torah, you have this idea. And he brings a dogma from Rashbi. Could have brought other dogmas. He brings Rashbi. It comes as a, but they're saying that, why is he bringing Dafka Rashbi? Could have brought many Musagim of Tanaim. And the Rebbe explains, Benegeh Tariba in Meifsim of Tanaim, that is Pekei HaTorah. Why does he bring Dafka the story of Rashbi? Because within, he means a certain type of Amshach HaShadi Torah. A special Chidush. Begin them Retzach. That's not what I say. So what's to do when it brings 9 bays? Rashbi, that then there was a matzav, there was a gzeira of Yeridas Sham. Brachas hat nicht geholfen. Rashbi durch sagen Teire was namshach Sham. When Rashbi himshach Yeridas Sham, adi amiras Teire. Chdish Yeridas Sham achish nigzash Yeridas Sham der klar that's am day shav shavas hasan chot. It was a gzeira. It means the world wasn't roi then. Mitzat seder shlashos for Sham. In Yidam mitzat eden so. And usually it has to be that the tefillah. And Rashbi hat zugt auf the amiras Teire. Sam shachav der chamel bli aved vigia. Oh, so this does steht in ein base. So Parsha said dugma baum. So first of all, dugma. He was masbid bracha. What gets through their word that in Torah we find this type of Indian that is erin sof b'derech hamshacha b'derech b'li aved v'yigia. Without aved samata, without b'maylas. What's for he said there has both mouths. What is that meisif? What's the message of Shaila? Why does this? What's that first two in the Maamar? So Shloime ashkoz ba Maamar shamshacha shadei brach chasidach ikmei hamshacha shadei Torah is there every lohavi dugma hamshacha shesh b'shtei amaylas. But we mean amitis in it. There's different dargis in the musig of bracha, and we meet over here, and there's different dargis in the gabi vasfara hamshacher retzach, and we meet, and the Meili brings this dogma to clarify what's retzach. It says like this. Why start? There is a fire. The chore is the dvarim atzum. Start. Ayidei esek atera shalem imshichu gileir in sof shel malim yishtalshus. That's Dr. There. And the Rebbe says that's why it's not it's not such a pele, but kum toyes. What do you need to do with Rashbi? Gam bam shach shadei esek atera techlatan bam mirayim. Hoyishnein yon manal. Ayidei esek atera shalem nasa shine v'chidish ba'elam. Chidish amidish leigam shesh makar elam. It was the chlukas anar. That means in the or there was a chlukas anar was a chiddush. Kamei chlukas anar the pirchas b'nei took it on shini v'chiddush gam legabe shesh mekered anar means the fact that mayim lamata are nigar or you say they flow is not that's because it's not the sheresh makar of mayim ad lamay lamayla. Biz this makar from bus hetzachon the makar of mitzias is eizgestellt that as that certain mitzias has to be in a way of flowing. So that's what their mamshig given chlukas anar that was mitzad erin sof shalom alam yishtalshus. And the shini nasa leade bekosh al de tzivish Rashbi. Hamal de brach shi b'derech tzivish. So what's b'shidus? There's Shloime shachidish b'zeh sherashbi him shechidish gesham. Ade miras terel gabe mitzvah tzum shos kamatonim b'mirayim adi yesh kater shalemu azam insert word. Shini ba'elam shen naasu kamatonim b'mirayim wa ade atziva v'agzeir shalem. Pirchas v'nyard tziva v'gozra l'nar shiachlik esmeim. It's gedaf hasten. We're going to see later what's the imik over here. The appearance means there's a Metzias of Welt. Metzias of Welt, mitzad the Gedorim of Seder Shtashalos, it should, a Nor should not be Nechlek. Mitzad Erin Sof, you don't have these Agbolas. Mitzad the Metzias of Elam, a Nor cannot be divided. Erin Sof is not Mugbal. So Erin Sof is going to overpower, even though the Nivra, mitzad his Gedorim, the Nor cannot be divided. Erin Sof is going to prevail, let's say. So, the Tzivur, it had to be with their Tzivur Yugzeir. Means, we were mamshach hamshacha that be'etzem the mata wasn't a keli for it, and the mata is menugated. Mashik and Rashbi, we don't. Rashbi didn't say any tzivui as the lamp nimshach and you just sham go. Rashbi is up to so it didn't say we know nothing, and mitzadem esert gesagt teire in der Welt gewarnt আছে. Shlei b'derech tzivui gzeir. Means it was nimshach as it wasn't in a way. As I'm saying, the Hezbollah, the Rebbe is going to explain later. The Rebbe is just saying that's a word. Not the pshat that mitzad erin sof, the mitzad metzias ha'elam, there's certain hakbalas. Mitzad erin sof, you don't have hakbalas, and the bligvul of ein sof overpowers the gvul of elam hazah. It's nicht das the word. Mitzad Rashbi is another Indian. So there's gala azam a certain Indian, which they got with that Indian lechatchila felt is not a stir. A whole different type. That's b'derech vados. Yeah, b'derech vados. say the Rebbe teaches Ma'ala Bracha is Vados. But you have two types in Vados. You have Vados, the Tachten Lepoil is not a Keli. So this in you, the Nivra Sedatzim is Gvul, let's say, and the Eir is Blikvul. And the Nivra is not a Keli to the Eir. But the Blikvul is stronger than the Gvul, let's say. Lepoil, the Tachten is not a Keli for it. So the Vados is lacking over here. Lepoil, there's a Darge in Mitzias, which is Heipach the Amshach. The Elnin's going to prevail, it's not Chazak. But Lepoil, there's a Darge in Mitzias which is Stirit in Amshach. The word of Vados he wants to say is that it's not Shaykhas Beifanacher. The Uft of Rashbi was gesagt Teire, nicht gedacht Teisen Mechlal. Once he was Megal Teire, automatically the world became that way. Kilo, there's not such a menagid Bechal. There's a way of being Mamshach Ein Sof and Aifin, not that you have to overpower the Hagbolus of Welt, or the Metzias of Malchus, the Yeshus of Welt. Mitzad this Inyan, Welt is Echazeh. So that's a mitzvah Inyan of Derech Vados. So the Maamar wants to explain, that because you're able to be Mamshach L'mayla Lamata. Because Meret V'gen Azam is the same way you say when you get to Brach, Amavarich. Why is it so clear that Amshach is going to come? Because there's no Menagid. He has B'keichel Tzavis. Al derech you have being Mamshach Ein Sof and Welt in a way that there's no Menagid. That's the mitzvah Inyan of Brach, of the mile of Hamshach of Derech Brach. That's why he brings this dogma of Rashbi.
And the B2 of that is that there's no need for tzibur.
No need for tzibur. When do you have to say a tzibur? When do you have to? I enforce something to happen. When it means because I said so, you must do it. So the tachton is opposite. It means there's someone which doesn't agree with my program. He's programmed otherwise, but the way I want, that's going to overpower the way he's programmed. In Rashbi, he wasn't fighting with anyone. He was not geheißen that the world should be one way or another way. But as he was Megala Teira, and Welt automatically became that way. So that's a mitzvah Derech Vados, that there's no opposition before. So it shouldn't be opposition mitzad the Darga, which Welt is a keli for, that's verstanden. But mitzad Ein Sof. And Ein Sof L'man Mesheh in a way of Bracha, and they were saying, and the Dugma of Rashbi, not in a way of Tzivur. But Derech HaMeileh, that's a special in of Daf Chasidach Abba. Tzadikim Azeh, mitzad Tzadikim Welt is a spirit of Lubos. This is a special Indian, and it's at a certain Darga that Welt L'chatchil is not understood. The Rebbe is saying it as I'm saying the background, but the Rebbe is saying it as before, just putting down the etzim Yisod. He's going to explain what the Havana is later. He says, he's not explaining now what's the, so what, it sounds like a good, that's going to be the whole Hemsh Chamayim. Ashbi was how the opinions we don't have to say, and he told him that if you don't listen to me, he had to threaten the Nor. Means it was Heipich the Nor, and he had to overpower the Agbol of the Nor. So Ba'chidish is Matad Emir Steret Rashbi, and Agam Shabbat Risham Lo Hayitzivi Klal Gam Liberemes. Because by the Amir Steret Shli Nasi Rizksham. He didn't have to overpower anyone. What's the Havana we'll see in them Shloime? Va'pizeh Shloime Dezeh Shemevi Maamar had Dugma Rizksham Ad Emir Steret Obet Lerames. Wegen dem Ratzem. It's not Stam Dugma. Wegen this is the mitzvah in a brach. Mitzvah in a brach is not the etzem zach there Mamshach Ein Sof and Welt. If it's B'derech Tzivu, so it's not the truth of B'derech HaMeileh. Bracha means it's nimshach with ars ishtabus v'yigir. If you have to be mitzvah v'geizer, it's not the true hamshacha B'derech HaMeileh. And we're dealing with here the hamshacha which needs dafke chasidecha. That's hamshacha in a way of Rashbi. It doesn't design. And in order to understand that, that's it when the Rebbe read in the ganze Indian. First he goes into what's okay. We'll see. You mentioned a bit what we learned.